Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Brockus Blum Computer Consulting Monthly Webinar Series. My name is Kelly Bergman, and it's my pleasure to introduce you today to Dylan O'Brien, Senior Solutions Engineer for uniPoint Software. Dylan serves as a creative and driven uniPoint quality solutions expert and is credited with helping customers find innovative ways to take advantage of the power of uniPoint's advanced quality software functionality to automate quality, compliance, tracking, and measurement. And before I go on and on, I'll let Dylan take the floor. Feel free to throw some questions in the Q&A. We'll answer those at the end as well. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Very much appreciate that. Warm welcome. Always have fun with these webinars and working with the team at Brockus Blum. Looking forward to today. Today we'll be looking at our KPIs, the key performance indicators, and how you can use those to really kind of drive activity in your organization to make sure that we're all readily aware and on top of the ongoing, day-to-day quality initiatives that might be taking place. uniPoint, though, it is a wide scope to our offering. We have many different modules available. So I don't want to bore you with too many slides. I do have a handful, though. Really, this is, a kind of a loose guide as to, what we'll be going through. But I'll give you some introductions about uniPoint, talk about the different modules that we have available. I'll give you an idea as to some of the areas for improvement that we're familiar with when we hear from companies that are using Excel and, access databases and those types of things. What can we realistically improve upon by automating a quality management environment? We're involved in many different industries, general manufacturing, medical devices, aerospace, and so on. So I'll give you an overview of that. And then we'll jump into a live product demonstration. And we'll be spending our time today mostly looking at the key performance indicators, the key indicators dashboard, if you will. But the dashboard really draws from all of our other modules. So without any further ado, let's get through these slides. I want to spend as much time as possible in the product itself. So Kelly did a really nice job introducing me. But again, my name is Dylan O'Brien. I do all of our demonstrations here at uniPoint as Senior Solutions Engineer. I walk through prospective customers through any or all of the modules as deep as you want to go. I'm more than happy to show you all of the different functions that might be present and that might be applicable for you all. So as we go through today, if you see areas of uniPoint that you'd like to take a deeper dive on, your best point of contact would be your consultant at Brockus Blum. So reach out to them. We work closely with them. They'll get in contact with the team over here at uniPoint, and we can put something on the calendars where we can do a dedicated demonstration at your convenience to really get into the details and get into the weeds, if you will. But see, these are some of the areas for improvement that we're familiar with. Hopefully your desk doesn't look quite this bad, but just this morning, I heard from a gentleman, he said his desk is worse than this. This would be an improvement for him. But you might be managing your quality today with a number of different systems, maybe handwritten logbooks, Excel spreadsheets are very common. You might have, at one point built a system or had an in-house system built maybe on an Access database, something similar to that. But if you've got a number of competing platforms, maybe your office does look like this, silos of data, people like to call it these days. It's really hard to have filing cabinets talk to each other, right? So how am I immediately aware of any ongoing and ongoing and live quality initiatives? How can I really make sense of that when I'm referencing filing cabinets, things like that? Mind you, using a number of disparate systems represents a number of challenges, and one of those, of course, is training. If I'm a quality manager and I'm bringing up to speed brand new quality engineers, and my quality management system looks like this, it's really difficult to train somebody up on 3 or 4 different platforms. Maybe you've got one inspections routine using Excel. Maybe you're managing non-conformances with Word documents, things like that. It can be a challenge, right, to bring somebody up to speed on a manual quality system. And the topic today, leveraging quality data live on the spot. How could I possibly pull together live quality metrics if they're stored in filing cabinets and shared drives and things like that? So it's a difficult thing to do, almost impossible in some cases, especially if we're in the middle of an audit, right? It's a kind of a high pressure environment. We've got auditors asking questions and we need to show them proof of something. How can we do that in a timely fashion? Again, if I'm having to reference filing cabinets, shared drives, those types of things. And if your desk looks like this, and honestly, my desk isn't too far off from this, but if your desk looks like that, oftentimes tasks, they can fall behind. They might be forgotten about entirely. And then again, analyzing the performance of tasks from last month, from last quarter, from last year, following up on previous tasks, again, it's a manual, laborious effort. We're having to, dig through filing cabinets just to have an understanding as to where we were at last month, last quarter, and so on. And all of this has a tangible effect on your bottom line. How long does it actually take us to put into practice an initiative to improve a situation? So it's one thing to detect, an area for improvement, but what is the lead time before we start taking advantage of improving the situation, right? And more often than not, we hear, if you're using, again, manual means, you typically don't have an accurate way, or really any way at all, of tracking, what are the total costs related to quality management? What's the big picture, if you will? So in contrast to all of that, we aim to consolidate your quality. We want to bring all of your quality information under one roof into a singular database, if you will. And just by nature of a system like this, you can move into a completely paperless environment, not just things like printed engineering drawings, work instructions, and so on, but all of your nonconformances, your preventative maintenance, all of your training initiatives, everything can become paperless in uniPoint. And because we're centralizing that data into a common database, we're able to provide real-time information across all of your quality initiatives. So on screen here is what we call our key indicators dashboard. And we'll jump in, we'll be looking at this in detail. But that dashboard, when I log in, immediately I'll know if I'm currently in compliance to my quality certifications and my customers' demands and so on. If something goes past due, it immediately shows in red on this dashboard. So the dashboard, in conjunction with predetermined task workflows and to-do lists, every person that has a task, they've got an active to-do on their to-do list. It really drives home accountability on your quality initiatives, and again, collaboration. If something goes past due, everybody will be aware of it. It'll jump up onto the dashboard, so we can take care of it immediately. We can, kind of focus our attention on things that require attention. And because we're leveraging data directly from the source, we have many different integrations for different Sage products. We're eliminating the duplication of data entry. You're already managing things like customers and suppliers and purchase orders and so on. You're already managing that in the most appropriate location in your Sage environment. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We pull that data in directly from Sage via our integration to help you, reduce efforts with respect to implementation and to give you more consistency and so on. To help you further reduce efforts, we employ robust templating across all of our modules. So once you've defined a process one time, maybe it's a corrective action workflow, an 8D or something to that effect, you can save that out as a template, and you can use those templates to automate your procedures moving forward. So it really accelerates not just implementation, but also makes your deployment of the quality system that much more consistent. And that way, any outliers stick out much more readily, if you will. In terms of industry compliance, we've been in the business for 22 years now. It's been quite some time, and I've been with the company for almost 10. And once upon a time, back in the day, we were just a quality toolkit that would manage, some of the high-level functions under ISO 9000, non-conformances, corrective actions, document control, and maintenance, I think was the first four that we started with. But these days, we have all of the modules and controls and requirements for really any type of quality-centric industry. Just a few examples on screen right now, but really any type of industry that requires quality certifications and so on, we can help you manage that activity. If your goal is achieving a certification for the very first time, you probably, already have, I shouldn't say probably, many of you might already have current certifications that you are compliant to and so on. While you plan for growth, uniPoint can be a nice system to manage ongoing compliance as you, grow and scale up the company. But, as we'll see when we get into the dashboard, it's really a nice way to demonstrate that you are adhering to quality practices and that you are currently in compliance. Like right now, forget about, the audit that happened last month. What about today, right now? Let's say we have a surprise customer audit. They might want to take a look and see, are you compliant in this very moment? And I'll show you how we can achieve that down the road here. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but the way that we're able to manage all of those different industries is that they all borrow heavily from ISO 9000. So these are kind of the foundational elements of all of those other certifications. And I think I forgot to remove a few of these slides. But I do have slides set up for, aerospace under AS9100, for example. The same items that were present in our ISO 9000, they are present here as well. Document control, non-conformances, corrective actions. We've got, focus on customer satisfaction and so on. So the AS9100, as an example, requires more than ISO 9000, but again, we do have all of the bases covered. Same is true for IATF 16949. Those same themes are present here. If we move on to medical devices, ISO 1345, and so on and so forth. By the way, for those of you that are involved in medical device, pharmaceutical, and so on, if you require FDA approval, we do have all of the controls required for CFR Part 11, Part 820, and so on. And then I think this is my last slide just on the certifications. If you're in food and beverages, SQF, ISO 22000, again, we've got your bases covered. The way that we're able to address all of these distinct industries with their specific requirements is that uniPoint is a modular approach to quality. So it's not a one-size-fits-all system. You can pick and choose your modules based on your needs. And of course, we always encourage our customers to start small. Tackle the hot spots right now. What are your most pressing issues? If down the road, a month from now, a year from now, whenever that might be, if you require more modules in the future, we'll be happy to sell them to you then. But we always encourage you start small, bite off what we can chew today, and you can always build the system and grow as your needs develop, if you will. We do include off the shelf over 100 different standard quality reports. This one here will come into effect today, live quality metrics. I should update my slide. These days, it's over 900 individual metrics. So every time we release the product, there's usually a handful of metrics, live key indicators that we also include. And we've built out all of this reporting based on customer feedback and suggestions over the last 20 years. We include all of this off the shelf, so it's not like you have to pay us for the privilege of using these reports and these metrics. We want to give you all of the tools that you might find beneficial to start making sense of the data day one. So it's one thing to collect the data. It's another thing to really be able to analyze it. And that's really where the system starts paying for itself, is in the analysis or the analytics of that data. How can we reduce, the most egregious instances of poor quality, if you will? I won't bore you with the details. I want to keep it somewhat short today. I want to give you a little bit of time back this afternoon. But if you're looking for, an in-depth demonstration of any of our modules, again, reach out to your consultant at Veracruz Bloom. Be more than happy to hear from them, and we can put something on my calendar where we can go through this in detail. I will point out, though, that the core quality modules in blue, the upper half of the wheel, these are included with every purchase of uniPoint. Beyond that, you can add on any of the add-on modules, like I say, day one or down the road. In the core quality, we're managing your non-conformances, whether that's internal NCs, vendor-facing issues, customer complaints as well. They may require corrective actions long-term to address them, so there's some nice integration there. We have a full-blown tooling and calibration module to manage your preventative maintenance, your unscheduled repairs, your calibrations, all of that stuff. I mentioned for CFR Part 11, Part 820, our document control module is very robust. So whatever your expectations might be out of a document control system, we will clear that bar and then some. We've got all of the controls required for really any type of industry. Customer service is where we're managing customer complaints. We want to make sure that we're resolving those complaints in a timely fashion, but it could be for anything, right? It's not just complaints. Maybe a customer has told you that they're changing their location and you want to make sure that you're not shipping product to the wrong location anymore. So customer service is really for any type of customer interaction, if you will. If it is a complaint, it might roll into an NC or a corrective action. So again, some nice integration throughout there. We have a change management module called requests. And so requests is built into every module. One good example would be, let's say I'm looking at a document control record, an employee handbook, just as an example. If I'm reading my employee handbook and I see that it's out of date, I might not personally have the ability or the permissions to update that document myself. It's probably going to be somebody else that would be responsible for that. Me, though, I could submit a request to have that document changed. So anytime you don't have direct permissions to perform a function in uniPoint, you can always submit a request for that function. So this will allow everybody to really have their voice heard. Mind you, it's also its own standalone module. So any type of quality workflow that doesn't fit into one of these big buckets, engineering change orders, PPAPs, APQPs, and so on, those are all routed through our request module. We have a general purpose meetings module to manage ISO meetings, audit meetings, internal quality meetings, whatever that might look like. Key indicators is the live dashboard that we'll be taking an in-depth look at today. Like I say, there are over 800 metrics these days. That's really just the tip of the iceberg, though, with respect to the reporting. To me, it's the most important aspect of the reporting in uniPoint, because that will give us a proactive measure where if something occurs, we can immediately start taking action on it. But we also include, and I don't have a wedge of the wheel to indicate this, but there are over 100, I think we're close to 150 these days. There's dozens and dozens of standard quality reports across all of our available modules. So once you start using a module, you do have static reports that you can use to tabulate your activity over time, if you will. We do include 800 metrics, but beyond the metrics and the standard reports, we also include a trend analysis engine. And that will allow you to determine, over time, have we achieved a return on investment, for example? So you'll be able to show the cost of quality going down and down and down. There's over 80 individual trend reports, and each trend report can be run a bunch of different ways, depending on how we end up filtering those reports and so on. So like I say, we want to give you all of the tools that you would need to make sense of the data as you're collecting it. And because it's an off-the-shelf system with all of this reporting front-loaded, it is very quick to implement. Once you've learned one module, you can immediately apply your knowledge to all of our other modules. It's a very consistent fit and function between all of our modules. And then, of course, you do have the tools to start making sense of that data immediately. On the lower half of the wheel, I'm not going to go through these in as much detail, but just know that we do have a full suite of quality control modules. We call these inspections. So whether you're doing first articles, in process, incoming goods, whatever that might be, we can collect inspections results through a mobile interface if that's important. We can also leverage a CMM or a ferro arm, really any type of automated inspections equipment. We can data map directly to it with Inspections Manager to pull that data in automatically without any human interaction, without any data entry whatsoever. And then for aerospace and defense, we do include a full-blown set of AS9102 first article inspection forms. That combines your manufacturing data from Sage along with your first article inspection data out of uniPoint to give you those forms. The dark gray modules here, they pretty much do what they say on the tin. I'll just say that education and training is tightly coupled to documents. So let's say we update a training document, we can immediately make sure that the related training or initiative is also up to date. You can audit anything, ISO audits, internal audits, whatever that might look like. Health and safety, we're also managing safety data sheets here beyond just tracking and managing health and safety incidents. Supplier management is our scorecarding system to make sure that our suppliers are performing the way that we expect them to. We have a full-blown risk management system, so we can do DFMEAs, PFMEAs, whatever that might look like. A web-based survey platform to gauge our customer satisfaction. And for some industries, you may be required to validate your use of a quality system. We've got a validations module that'll help you accelerate that process. But let's move on from here. I think I've given you enough detail for now. But again, if we want to dig into the nuts and bolts of any of these modules, just let your Veracruz Bloom consultant know, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate. The ERP integration that we're pulling in, it is over 110 individual data points. These are the big buckets of data. So your customers, your vendors, all of your work orders and jobs and so on, your parts list, all of your employees, whether they're quality related employees or not, we pull them in from Sage, all of your work centers and so on. So all told, over 110 data points, but these are the big buckets. I'm going to get through these slides here because I want to show you the actual product. I mentioned the trending that we do, though, but this is one example. The total cost of quality report, it summarizes all of the spending that we're doing in all of the modules. So whether it's the time invested in audits, the time invested in training initiatives, the scrap material that we had to throw away, in uniPoint, everything is summarized into a report that'll readily show, that you have achieved a return on investment. So in this example, I started off spending $10,500 on average every month. And over the course of 6 months, we've trended down, and now we're only spending $7,500, right? So you could see how a report like this would be able to illustrate that, we have saved money based on automating the quality. But not just quality, let's say you buy new equipment that makes you much more efficient. You should see that, bear out at the end of the day in your end of the day total cost of quality management. It helps you demonstrate ROI, but also measures the performance, and it allows you to measure how effective you are in your decision making and so on. Now, the topic of the software demo, and I'm going to get into this, we'll look at this live here in a moment, but at a high level, this is a per user dashboard. Everybody can have their own distinct view of this dashboard. So mine is going to look different from yours, of course. You can customize it based on your own responsibilities. And like I keep mentioning, there's over 800, over 900 these days, individual metrics. The idea is that when we log in, we'll immediately be able to see, are we currently in compliance to our quality initiatives? So where are we at right now? Although we do offer some trending on the dashboard as well. I can see that I've had a dramatic decrease in our non-conformances, for example, and a corresponding decrease in our corrective actions. These days, most of our customers are really spending 90% of their audit time sitting in front of this dashboard. You can design a dashboard specifically for a particular type of audit. And that way, when you sit your auditor down in front of your computer, they have access to absolutely everything that they might need to review. Well, I shouldn't say absolutely everything. There might be a few things that maybe you don't have on the dashboard, but as much as possible, if we can limit the amount of time that they spend rifling through filing cabinets or digging through shared drives on your network and so on, who knows what they might find if they dig hard enough. We want to, as much as possible, answer their questions before they have to ask the question. That'll really kind of accelerate things a lot. But ideally, before they have to go searching for the answer, right? So we want to present them with all of that information up front, just be open and honest about it. The sooner we can get them, through the audit, the sooner they're out of our facility and we can get back to, business as usual. With that, let's jump into a demonstration. I'm going to log into uniPoint Web. And when I log in, I'll just point out a couple of things. I'll zoom in a little bit too. When I log in, first of all, I am a system administrator and I own every module with uniPoint. So my module list on the side, it's probably a little bit busier than what you might experience. Typically, you would only see the modules that you own and that you personally have permissions to. So we have a full permission system that governs who's allowed to see what. That covers all of the modules. The next button over is the report button, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of reports. These are also protected by permissions. The dashboard, though, is the first piece of data or multiple pieces of data that I'm greeted by. And my dashboard, I've configured it with some examples, but like I say, this is based on, an individual's responsibilities. What do they need to be aware of as they start their day? And so just to kind of go through some of the things that I've got set up here, and then we're going to reconfigure this together. It's easy to reconfigure, but I'll point out that, today I have 0 tasks that are due right now. So that sounds pretty good. Maybe I've got a light Wednesday on, in front of me until I look at this next number here, my to-dos that are past due. And hopefully you never are in a situation like this. Thankfully, this is just a demo system, so I'm not actually responsible for these tasks, but I do have my own personal to-do panel. And this is going to highlight everything that I specifically am responsible for. I'll point out here that I am responsible for 38 equipment tickets that are past due. And when I click on that, all 38 of the equipment tickets are listed down below. So even though we have all of the modules off on the left-hand side, if you've got your dashboard configured appropriately, you shouldn't have to navigate into any of these to really understand what's in front of you. You should be able to do most, if not all, of your navigation directly from the dashboard. So I can click on my tickets that are past due. If I double click on a ticket down below, it's immediately going to launch me into that equipment ticket and I can complete it and move on, with the other 37 that I still have due in front of me, right? This is my to-do panel, of course. I mentioned that a couple of times. Just below that, though, is the general tooling and equipment panel. I am mostly concerned with the equipment tickets that I have on my plate that are past due. We also break out, what is due this week and this month. And we are approaching the end of the month. So for me, those numbers all line up. But it might be, this week I have 50 that are due. And this month I have 110. So you'll see these numbers update in real time as the days and weeks and months go by. But just down below here, I also have a view, and maybe I'll get rid of to do, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can see more. I also have a view system-wide, where are we at? So I might have 38 that are past due on my to-do list, but overall, there are 49 maintenance tickets that are past due. So if I have a maintenance manager, they are mostly concerned about this number here. Mind you, if they do need to look at my personal to-do list, they can readily do that. Up in the top right corner here, I have a button that I can access anybody's to-do list. But I can also see at a glance here, how many tickets are due this week. We do time estimations in most, if not all, of our modules. And so I can also see, based on the estimations that we've done, these 54 tickets represent 102 hours worth of, humans' time that they would need to invest. So hopefully we've got, more than 2-3 people working on these maintenance tickets. Again, my situation here is a little bit, not real world in the sense that you would be more on top of these things, I would hope, than I am here, because we're always giving you advanced notifications, what's due this week, this month, and how many hours. You should be able to have all the details to stay on top of these things, if you will. Every module in uniPoint offers comprehensive cost tracking. And so I can see at a glance here, my non-conformances last year up until today's date, September 25th. Last year, we spent $4,000 actioning our non-conformances. This year, up until this date, we've dropped that considerably, right? We've saved ourselves about just over 25%. So that is an appreciable difference in non-conformance spending. And that is a result of routing related non-conformances through appropriate corrective actions activities. And we can see that last year I really had a lot of spending compared to this year just on my corrective actions. But we're bubbling up costing information to this dashboard as well. Now, not all of your employees will have access to the accounting side of things, the costing information, if you don't want them to, obviously. All of the accounting related metrics that you can use on the dashboard, they are protected by permissions as well. So you might not want everybody to have this type of a view, but when I click on these metrics, my last year up until this date, this will show me all of the non-conformances that we had last year up until today's date. So September 25th, right? If I come all the way to the bottom, we'll eventually end up in September. I can contrast that with this year to date. And when I click on that, these are all of this year's non-conformances, if you will. I mentioned that you can configure this dashboard a number of different ways. So obviously I can change the orientation of these panels, change the order of them, move them up, move them down. I can make them larger or smaller, if you will. So maybe I'm not involved in tooling and equipment. Maybe I'm not involved in education and training or document control, but I want a bigger view of the trends. So you can stretch these out to occupy as much or as little space as you might need. And once I'm happy with the layout, if I right click, I can save that layout. So it'll always be the same way every time that I log in. We also have shared layouts. So let's say I come up with a really nice layout that other colleagues want to use as well. I can save this as a shared layout, and then other people would have access to my layout via the shared layouts section of the menu here. Now, if you look at the bottom, I also have multiple layouts at my disposal. So let's say today's Wednesday. Let's say on Wednesdays, I have a smaller set of responsibilities that I really need to focus in on. If I switch to my secondary layout, maybe this is all I need to really pay attention to on Wednesdays. And again, I can make this as big or as small as I might need. I also have an audit layout. We've got a surprise audit, or maybe it's a scheduled audit. We want to sit our auditor down in front of the dashboard to make sure that they have all of the information proactively. I simply switch to my audit layout and boom, we've got all of the information that an auditor might need to review, of course. Maybe they're not interested in the test panel. Maybe they're not interested in education and training. If I right click anywhere, I can choose to add or remove panels. And it's very easy to do. Maybe they want to see corrective actions, inspections, my portal panel, whatever that might be. You can have as much or as little information as you might need. And again, when I save that layout, it'll be the same way each and every time that the auditor connects to the environment, if you will. My last example here, maybe a supplier management panel. These are all of my supplier ratings, my risk assessments against them, my supplier surveys, and so on. Then I can always flip back to my standard layout, when I'm done with those others, if you will. So that's at a high level, how I can manage these panels, move them around. Now, I talked a lot about how it's, 800 plus or 900 plus individual metrics. Obviously, we don't have the time to go through them all today. I'll spare you that. But I will right click here and I'm going to go into the key indicators manager. So this is where we start defining which panels we want. And maybe I'll just zoom in slightly here. So I can create any number of different panels. I'll just create a new one. I'll call this, new panel, panel for I can't type and speak at the same time. A new panel for Veracruz, right? And I can add in as much or as little information as I want. Maybe I want some auditing stuff, some corrective action stuff, and so on. So you're in control over, what details end up on that panel at the end of the day. And if I just right click here and expand everything, and we'll just zoom out a little bit now, you'll see that there are hundreds and hundreds of ways to slice and dice the data. So we want to, like I say, give you all of the tools that you would need to analyze the ongoing activity on the spot. Every module is represented. So regardless of what somebody's job description is, what their responsibilities are, and so on. And in the future, if you buy new modules from us, they all come with key indicators. So you'll never be in a position where, it's great to collect the data, but then what do we do with it, right? That's what a lot of people that are managing quality with Excel run up against at the end of the day is we've got all of these Excel spreadsheets. What do we actually do with all of these? And so now you might be hiring somebody to write custom reports for you and so on. We want you to have the tools off the shelf to make sense of it. Mind you, on the topic of custom reporting, I'll just point out that all of our reports are done in crystal reports. So if there's a static report, and while I talk, I'll run this NC analysis by way of origin, and I want to know which vendors are responsible for the most NCs. If you need to customize our reporting whatsoever, we do it in crystal reports and we give you all of the source files. And in this case, we can see that one of my suppliers is using far more resources than all of my other suppliers combined, right? Just one example out of over 100 different reports. You can modify these to suit your requirements, and that covers everything that we offer here. The one other thing I wanted to point out here while we're still connected, and I did want to give you a little bit of time back at the end of the session, and I also wanted to maybe save some time for some questions in case any of those are coming through. Everything that I've shown you here so far on a desktop computer, and by the way, this is a web browser based environment. We do have a Windows application as well. So if you'd rather not use a web browser, you can absolutely use our Windows application. But everything that I do here is also available on a mobile device. And you can't see this just yet. This is my phone. I'm holding it in my hand. But if I open up uniPoint Web on my mobile device, it's going to connect to the same exact database. I'm going to log in as myself, as you would expect. And when I log in, I'm immediately presented with my key indicators again. So I've got my to-do panel. Again, 0 tasks due today, but I do have 1,400 that are past due. I can collapse that and just focus in on maybe it's just non-conformances. Earlier today, I did a demo and I failed an inspection. And as a result of that failed inspection, I automated a new non-conformance. So if I wanted to review, where are we at with that non-conformance, I can open it up. Same as what we've got here. My new NCs today, there's my new non-conformance. And if I double click on that, same with my mobile side, I can open it up and I can review. We are currently in the disposition phase of the non-conformance. And so it's the same style of workflow. We originate, we investigate, we disposition. Same idea here on the mobile side. I did want to point out, though, that if you're using a mobile device to collect quality information, you have a number of advantages. First of all, I can do this anywhere in my facility. If I'm walking around reviewing the environment, I'm doing an internal audit, or maybe I'm just on my way to lunch or a coffee break. If I see a problem, it's best to write it up immediately. If I wait until I'm back from my coffee break, chances are, we've forgotten about it, or maybe forgotten some of the pertinent details. So I'm going to jump into the little hamburger menu there, and I'm going to create a brand new nonconformance. I'll use the auto number button up across, at the bottom there. And I'm just going to save this. I'm not going to put a lot of work into it. Just as an example, I'm going to save my nonconformance. And long story short, we originate a nonconformance, we investigate a nonconformance, we disposition a nonconformance. Along the way, though, we might have some attachments that we'd like to include. Maybe it's a photo, a Word document, whatever that might be. So if I add go to my attachments tab, at the bottom here, I'll add a new attachment, and we'll say that I want to attach a picture. The little lookup glass will allow me to leverage my phone's camera. And so now you'll see that this is indeed my phone that I'm holding in my hand. And let's just pretend, I hope this is not the case, but let's just pretend that my microphone is non-conforming. If that's the case, then I've been talking to myself for the last half hour, but hopefully that isn't the case. But now I've documented a nonconformance 22239. My dashboard is set to refresh every 5 minutes. You can make it, as often as you want, but I'm just going to right click and say refresh. And now we'll see that we have 2 new nonconformances today. As you would expect, the most recent nonconformance is down below. And on the attachments tab, we have an immediate, photo as to what the problem was, right? So the dashboard is going to give people immediate access as to, what is taking place in the facility. And I'll just go back to my regular dashboard here. Where are we at right now? And if we give everybody the tools to be able to capture information immediately, we'll have as close to a real-time understanding as possible. People will be able to collect data real time, and then everybody will be aware of that data in real time as well. So today's webinar is a little bit shorter than normal because I'm just really kind of touching in on the dashboard, and the dashboard draws data from every one of our modules. I really welcome you and I encourage you to reach out to your Veracas Bloom consultant, because like you can tell, I'll have a lot of fun showing the software. I have a lot of fun talking about it. If you want to know anything more, even if it's something that you might be thinking about doing in 2025, 2026, there's no time like the present to maybe plant a seed and start getting some ideas about how we might use the software. So please reach out to Veracas Bloom, let them know that you'd like to take a detailed look at this. And I'd be more than happy to join you at a time of your convenience to take a deeper dive, if you will. On that note, I'm going to bounce back over to Kelly and see maybe are there any questions that have come through while I've been talking here?
Oh, we have no questions today. You must have done a phenomenal job. That's what I tend to go with.
Exactly, yes.
But we will be sharing this webinar with our whole client base too, so maybe we'll have some questions coming up from there. And great job. I love the dashboards. Who doesn't love
Appreciate that.
All right.
I have a lot of fun with it. And I really appreciate you, Kelly, and the team at Veracas Bloom for inviting me. Looking forward to meeting with some of you all attending today as well. So thanks for your attention and for your interest today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you and your team for your time today. And of course, to all our attendees, we know your time is valuable. So we really appreciate you spending a little bit of it with us. And until next time, thank you. Have a great day.